Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the scanner readings again. The numbers were impossible, but they were real. His mining ship New Hope had found the biggest deposit of quantum crystals anyone had ever seen on planet Kepler 44b. "Lisa, come look at this," Jake called to Dr. Lisa Grant, his chief medical officer and oldest friend. She had been with him for 12 years, through good times and bad. Lisa walked over to the scanner station. Her eyes went wide when she saw the readings. "Jake, this is huge. These crystals could power 100 starships for 50 years. Lieutenant Ben Carter, barely 25 years old and full of energy, ran into the control room. "Captain, we just hit another vein. This whole planet is full of them." Jake smiled for the first time in months. His crew of 300 humans had been mining space rocks for 2 years without finding anything valuable. The alien-controlled Galactic Federation paid humans very little for their work. Most human families lived in poor conditions, while the rich alien species enjoyed luxury. "Send word to Earth," Jake ordered. "Tell them we've found enough crystals to make humanity rich." But Jake's happiness did not last long. 3 hours later, his communication officer received a message that made everyone's blood run cold. "Captain," the young woman said, her voice shaking. "The Federation is sending ships. They're claiming our discovery under Emergency Protocol 7. Jake's face turned red with anger. Emergency Protocol 7 was a law that let the Federation take anything humans found, if they called it too important for one species to control. The strange thing was, this law only seemed to work against humans. Dr. Lisa Grant pulled up the legal files on her computer. "Jake, I've been looking at the records. The Federation has used this protocol against human discoveries 47 times in the last 10 years. They've never used it against the Velrani, Korthok, or Zephraians." "What are you saying?" Jake asked, even though he already knew the answer. "I'm saying they're stealing from us. They've been doing it for years." Ambassador Paul Vincent's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired and defeated. Paul had spent 20 years trying to get fair treatment for humans in the Federation. "Jake, I just got word from the Federation Council. You have to leave the planet." "Like hell we do," Ben Carter shouted. "We found those crystals. They belong to us." Paul shook his head sadly. "They're sending a joint task force. Velrani and Korthok ships. They'll be there in 6 hours." Jake looked around at his crew. These people had families. They had children who needed food and medicine. The crystals could change everything for humanity. "Paul, what happens if we stay?" "They'll remove you by force. And if we fight?" Paul was quiet for a long moment. "Then a lot of good people will die." Jake made his decision. "Tell the Federation we're not leaving. This planet belongs to humanity now." The next few hours were the longest of Jake's life. His crew worked quickly to set up defenses around their mining base. They had mining equipment and a few small weapons, but nothing that could stop warships. Dr. Lisa Grant spent the time digging through Federation records. What she found made her sick to her stomach. "Jake, you need to see this. The Federation hasn't just been stealing our discoveries. They've been stealing our people, too." The files showed that thousands of humans had disappeared over the years. Smart scientists, skilled engineers, and talented artists had vanished. The Federation claimed they had relocated for better opportunities, but no one ever heard from them again. "They're not just robbing us," Lisa said. "They're studying us. Look at these medical files. They've been testing human blood, human brain, tissue, human DNA." Jake felt cold inside. Why would they do that? I don't know. But whatever the reason, it's not good. The alien ships arrived exactly on time. 3 massive Velrani cruisers and 2 Korthok destroyers dropped out of hyperspace. They were beautiful ships, covered in smooth metal that seemed to glow in the sunlight. A voice came over the radio. It was cold and emotionless. Human mining vessel, you have 1 hour to evacuate the planet. After that time, we will begin orbital bombardment. Ben Carter ran to the weapons station. Captain, we have to fight. Jake wanted to fight too. Every part of him screamed to resist. But he looked at his crew and thought about their families back home. No, we can't win this fight. Order evacuation. But as the humans began loading onto their ships, something terrible happened. The scanners showed thousands of life signs in the main colony, men, women, and children who worked in the crystal processing plant. Jake opened a channel to the alien fleet. Wait, there are civilians down there. Give us time to get them out. The alien voice was as cold as before. Evacuation time has expired. Beginning bombardment. No, Jake screamed. There are children down there. The alien ships opened fire. Jake watched in horror as bright beams of energy struck the colony. Buildings exploded. The processing plant vanished in a ball of fire. 3,000 humans died in less than 5 minutes. Dr. Lisa Grant was crying. Ben Carter was throwing up. The whole crew stood in shocked silence as they watched their friends and neighbors die. Jake opened a channel to Admiral Kate Rodriguez back on Earth. Kate was the highest-ranking human in the Federation fleet. She was also Jake's sister. Kate, Jake said, his voice breaking. They killed them all. Men, women, children. They didn't even give us time to evacuate. Admiral Rodriguez's face was white with rage. Jake, I want you to send me everything. Every record, every file, every piece of evidence you have. What are you going to do? Kate looked into the camera with eyes that burned like fire. I'm going to show the galaxy what happens when you push humanity too far. Over the next hour, Jake sent all the information Dr. Lisa Grant had found. The stolen discoveries, the missing people, the medical experiments, and now the massacre at Kepler 442b. Admiral Rodriguez broadcast the evidence to every human colony in the galaxy. Her message was simple and clear. For 200 years, we've tried to be good citizens of the Federation. We've followed their laws, paid their taxes, and sent our children to die in their wars. And how do they repay us? They steal from us, experiment on us, and murder us. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was filled with cold determination. As of this moment, humanity no longer recognizes Federation authority. They wanted to see what humans do when pushed too far. Now they're going to find out. The galaxy would never be the same. The news of the Kepler 442b massacre spread through human space like wildfire. Within hours, every human colony had seen the recordings of alien ships destroying the mining settlement. They had seen children running from the explosions. They had seen families burned alive. General Rick Hayes was eating breakfast on Mars when he got the call. He had been forced to retire from the Federation military 3 years ago for asking too many questions. Now those questions seemed very important. Rick, Admiral Kate Rodriguez said over the secure channel, I need you. Rick looked at his wife and smiled sadly. He had known this day would come. Where do you want me, Earth? We're putting together something the Federation has never seen before. On the research station orbiting Jupiter, Professor Amy Chen was studying the quantum crystal samples that Jake Morrison had managed to save. She had been working on the crystals for 15 years, but something was different now. Maybe it was her anger, or maybe it was desperation, but she was seeing patterns she had never noticed before. Computer, run analysis on human neural structure. Interaction with quantum fields, she said. The results made her gasp. Humans had something in their brains that no other species possessed. A cluster of neurons that could connect directly with quantum energy. The aliens had known about this for decades. That's why they had been stealing human scientists and running secret experiments. My God, Amy whispered. We're not just another species. We're something completely different. Captain Steve Johnson had been waiting for this moment for 10 years. As the head of human intelligence operations, he had been secretly building a network of spies throughout the galaxy. Now it was time to use them. Steve's agents were everywhere. Human janitors in alien government buildings, human mechanics working on alien ships, human cooks serving alien officers. The aliens thought humans were too stupid to be dangerous. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Activate all networks," Steve ordered. "It's time to show our friends what we've been doing all these years." Within minutes, Steve's people began sending information. Alien ship locations, weapons specifications, troop movements, and secret communications. The aliens had been planning humanity's destruction for months, but now the humans knew everything. Commander Linda Brooks had been training her Special Forces team in secret for 5 years. They called themselves Ghost Company because they appeared and disappeared like spirits. Linda had handpicked each member for their skills and their hatred of alien oppression. "Listen up," Linda told her team of 50 elite soldiers. "The aliens think they can murder our people and walk away. They're wrong. We're going to hit them so hard they'll wish they had never heard of humanity." Her soldiers were different from regular Federation troops. They had trained in abandoned asteroid mines, learning to fight in zero gravity. They had studied ancient human warfare, from ninja tactics to guerrilla fighting. They knew how to kill silently, how to sabotage equipment, and how to disappear without a trace. The first sign of trouble came when alien communication networks across the galaxy began failing. Steve Johnson's agents had planted computer viruses in every major system. Messages were being intercepted, rerouted, or simply deleted. The second sign came when alien supply convoys started disappearing. Commander Brooks and her Ghost Company teams struck like lightning, destroying supplies and vanishing before help could arrive. The aliens found empty ships drifting in space with no sign of what had happened to the crews. General Rick Hayes arrived on Earth to find a planet transformed. Every human on Earth was angry. The old Earth governments had dissolved overnight, replaced by a single military authority. Factories that had made civilian goods were now producing weapons. Universities were training soldiers instead of students. "Kate," Rick said to Admiral Rodriguez, "what have you done?" Kate smiled grimly. "I've awakened something that should have stayed asleep. But the aliens wouldn't let us live in peace, so now they get to deal with what we really are." Professor Amy Chen's discovery about human neural structure had reached every human colony. Scientists everywhere began working on new technologies that used humanity's unique abilities. They developed weapons that humans could control with their thoughts, ships that responded to human emotions, and defensive systems that adapted to threats in real time. The aliens tried to stop the human rebellion by attacking Earth directly. A massive fleet of 200 ships arrived in Earth's solar system, confident that they could crush human resistance in a few hours. They were wrong. The human ships that met them were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of following predictable patterns, human pilots flew like wild animals. They used tactics that made no sense according to alien military doctrine. They sacrificed ships to protect others, then turned around and fought with desperate fury. Commander Brooks led a boarding party onto the alien flagship. Her Ghost Company soldiers moved through the alien ship like death itself. They used the aliens' own weapons against them, turned their defensive systems into traps, and spread fear through the enemy ranks. The alien admiral tried to surrender, but the humans were not interested in surrender. They had seen the recordings from Kepler 44b. They had counted the dead children. Mercy was not an option. When the battle ended, every alien ship was destroyed or captured. Not a single alien officer survived to report what had happened. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer playing by Federation rules. Steve Johnson intercepted the alien communications that followed the defeat at Earth. The 3 major alien species were terrified. They had expected to face scattered human rebels. Instead, they had encountered a unified enemy that fought like nothing they had ever seen. They fight like demons, one Velrani commander reported. No formation, no rules, no fear of death. How do you defeat an enemy that acts like this? The Korthok Military Council was equally confused. Human tactics make no sense. They sacrifice valuable resources for no strategic gain. They attack when they should defend, and defend when they should retreat. Our battle computers cannot predict their behavior. The Zephyrians, who prided themselves on superior technology, were perhaps the most shaken. Human technology should be primitive, but their weapons are adapting faster than we can counter them. It's as if their machines are learning during battle. General Hayes smiled when he read these reports. They still don't understand us. They think war is about following rules and making logical decisions. They've never had to fight for survival. Professor Chen made another breakthrough when she realized that human neural adaptation was accelerating. The stress of war was triggering changes in human brain structure. Humans were evolving in real time, becoming faster, smarter, and more dangerous with each battle. We're not the same species we were 6 months ago, she told Admiral Rodriguez. The quantum field interactions are changing us at a fundamental level. We're becoming something new. Kate nodded. Good. The old humanity was too trusting, too willing to accept abuse. Maybe it's time for something better. The aliens made one last attempt to crush human resistance. They gathered their 3 most powerful fleets and prepared to attack the human colony worlds simultaneously. They were confident that humans could not defend multiple locations at once. They had forgotten about human intelligence networks. Steve Johnson's agents provided complete information about the alien plans. General Hayes and Admiral Rodriguez prepared a trap that would change the course of galactic history. When the alien fleets arrived at their targets, they found the colonies defended by new types of human weapons. Space mines that could think, fighter craft that moved like living creatures, and defensive platforms that learned from each attack. But the real surprise came when the aliens tried to retreat. Human ships had surrounded them using routes that should have been impossible to navigate. The humans had learned to use quantum fields to jump their ships through space in ways that broke every known law of physics. The alien fleets were destroyed completely. 3 admirals, 12 generals, and over 50,000 of the galaxy's best soldiers died in a single day. The survivors sent a message that echoed through alien space. Humanity was no longer the prey. They had become the hunters. Admiral Rodriguez received the final reports from the battle as she stood on the bridge of Earth's newest warship. The vessel was a hybrid of human engineering and captured alien technology, powered by quantum crystals and controlled by human neural interfaces. Kate, General Hayes said, the aliens are requesting a ceasefire. They want to negotiate. Kate looked out at the stars and thought about the children who had died on Kepler 4b. She thought about the humans who had been kidnapped for experiments. She thought about 2 centuries of abuse and humiliation. Tell them, we'll negotiate, she said finally. Right after we finish what they started. The galaxy had pushed humanity too far, and now it was going to learn the price of that mistake. 6 months after the great battles near Earth, humanity had transformed completely. The scattered colonies that once begged for scraps from alien tables had become a unified war machine that made the galaxy tremble. Commander Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, humanity's first true stealth warship. The ship was invisible to alien sensors, faster than anything in space, and packed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Alex had been chosen to command this ship because he understood something the aliens did not. Sometimes the best way to win a war was to make your enemy afraid to sleep. Sir, called Lieutenant Sam Peters from the pilot station, we're approaching the Velrani supply depot. They have no idea we're here. Alex smiled coldly. The Velrani had made the mistake of storing their food supplies at a space station near their home world. They thought the location was too well defended for humans to attack. They were wrong. Begin the hunt, Alex ordered. The Retribution moved through space like a ghost. Its new quantum drive made no sound and left no trace. Dr. Ryan Foster's weapons team had designed the ship's guns to fire silently, using pure energy that could punch through alien armor like paper. The Velrani supply station exploded without warning. Millions of tons of food and medicine vanished in seconds. The alien workers on the station had just enough time to scream before they died. But Alex was not finished. As Velrani ships rushed to investigate the explosion, the Retribution appeared, behind them like death itself. The alien vessels never had a chance to fight back. One by one, they simply disappeared in flashes of light. Target destroyed, Commander, Sam Peters reported. No survivors. Good, Alex said. Send a message to their home world. Tell them this is what happens when you murder human children. Across the galaxy, similar attacks were happening every day. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with terrible force, and vanished before the aliens could respond. The old Federation military had been built to fight traditional wars with rules and predictable tactics. They had no idea how to fight. An enemy that treated war as a hunting expedition. Captain Nicole Davis walked through the halls of the Velrani government building on their capital world. She wore the uniform of a diplomatic aide, but hidden in her clothes were weapons that could kill every alien in the building. Nicole had spent 2 years learning to speak Velrani perfectly and studying their customs. Now she was about to put that knowledge to deadly use. Ambassador, she said in perfect Velrani, to the alien official beside her, the High Council is ready to meet with you. The Velrani ambassador trusted Nicole completely. Humans were supposed to be too stupid for complex deception. The aliens had convinced themselves that humans were like animals, dangerous when cornered, but lacking the intelligence for long-term planning. Nicole led the ambassador to a private meeting room where she activated a small device hidden in her sleeve. The device jammed all communications in the building and created a sound barrier around the room. What is this? The Velrani ambassador asked in confusion. This, Nicole said as she pulled out a weapon, is a message from the children of Kepler 44, to be. When Nicole's mission was complete, she walked calmly out of the building. Behind her, the entire Velrani High Council lay dead. She had learned their military codes, their secret communications, and their plans for the next phase of the war. The information Nicole gathered revealed something that made every human leader furious. The 3 alien species had formed a secret alliance called the Purification Pact. Their goal was simple: eliminate humanity completely before human technology became too advanced to stop. Dr. Ryan Foster read the intercepted alien communications with growing anger. They're planning to use biological weapons, he told Admiral Rodriguez. Something designed specifically to kill humans. Kate Rodriguez's face was like carved stone. How long do we have? According to this, the weapon will be ready in 3 months. Then we finish this war in 2 months. Admiral Tony Clark received orders to assemble the largest human fleet in history. Ships came from every colony, every mining station, every hidden base that humans had built in secret. Old Earth warships that had been retired were brought back into service. Civilian vessels were converted into carriers and troop transports. But the most important ships in the fleet were the new hunter-killers. These vessels had been designed using Professor Amy Chen's discoveries about human neural interfaces. Each ship was connected directly to its pilot's mind, allowing humans to control their vessels with thought and emotion. Lieutenant Sam Peters led the first squadron of pilots trained in the new Chaos Doctrine, where alien pilots followed rigid formation patterns. Human pilots moved like a flock of angry birds. They attacked from impossible angles, changed direction without warning, and seemed to know what their enemies would do before the aliens knew themselves. Remember, Sam told his pilots before their first mission, the aliens think war is a game with rules. Show them what happens when humans stop playing games. The human fleet struck at alien worlds like a storm of pure destruction. They did not try to capture territory or hold strategic positions. Instead, they destroyed everything the aliens needed to continue fighting. Supply depots exploded, communication networks went dark, and military installations simply vanished. Colonel Dan Murphy led ground forces that had been enhanced with experimental technology. His soldiers could run faster than vehicles, see in complete darkness, and lift weights that would crush normal humans. But more importantly, they fought with a fury that terrified alien troops. The humans don't fight for territory, one surviving Korthak soldier reported. They fight for revenge. They won't stop until we're all dead. The aliens tried desperately to fight back, but every move they made was countered before they could complete it. Captain Steve Johnson's intelligence network had grown to include thousands of human agents throughout alien space. The aliens could not plan an attack without humans knowing about it first. "Sir," Steve reported to General Hayes, "the aliens are trying to move their biological weapon to a more secure location. Where? A space station in the Andromeda sector. It's protected by their combined fleets." General Hayes studied the tactical information. The station was surrounded by over 300 alien warships. It should have been impossible to attack. "Tell Admiral Clark to prepare for a direct assault," Hayes ordered. "We're going to end this." Dr. Matt Anderson worked frantically in his laboratory, trying to understand the alien bioweapon. The intercepted data showed that it was designed to target human DNA specifically. Once released, it would spread through human populations like a plague, killing everyone in days. "There has to be a weakness," Matt muttered as he studied the weapon's design. "Everything has a weakness." But as he worked, Matt made a disturbing discovery. The aliens had been studying human genetics for decades, using samples taken from the kidnapped scientists and artists. They knew human biology better than humans did. Admiral Matt reported to Kate Rodriguez, "This weapon is almost perfect. It's designed to be impossible to counter with normal medicine." "Almost perfect?" Kate asked. "There's one thing they don't understand. Professor Chen's discovery about human neural evolution. We're changing so fast that their weapon might not work on what we're becoming." Kate nodded grimly. "Then we better finish changing before they finish their weapon." The final assault on the alien bioweapon facility began with a surprise that shocked the galaxy. Instead of attacking with traditional tactics, the human fleet simply appeared inside the alien defensive formation. They had learned to use quantum fields to jump their ships through space instantly. The alien fleet commanders panicked. Their ships were designed to fight enemies that approached from a distance. They had no idea how to fight an enemy that could appear anywhere at any time. Captain Sarah Williams led a boarding party onto the space station where the bioweapon was stored. Her team consisted of volunteers who knew they might not survive the mission. But they also knew that if they failed, every human in the galaxy would die. "Remember," Sarah told her team as they prepared to board the station, "we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human child who deserves to grow up free." The battle for the station was brutal. Alien soldiers fought desperately to protect their ultimate weapon, but human troops had been transformed by months of warfare. They moved faster, thought quicker, and fought with a determination that no alien could match. Sarah's team reached the weapon storage facility just as alien scientists were preparing to launch it. She could see the containers holding enough poison to kill billions of humans. "Destroy everything," Sarah ordered. Her team planted explosives throughout the facility, while alien reinforcements tried to stop them. The fighting was hand-to-hand, with no quarter given by either side, as the explosives were set to detonate. Sarah opened a communication channel to the alien fleets surrounding the station. "This is Captain Sarah Williams of the human military," she said. "You came to our worlds and murdered our children. You stole our discoveries and experimented on our people. You tried to destroy our entire species with biological weapons." Explosions began, tearing the station apart. Sarah continued speaking as the facility collapsed around her. "You wanted to see what humans become when you push us too far. Now you know. We become your nightmare. We become the thing that hunts you in the dark. We become the reason you're afraid to sleep." The bioweapon station exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from 3 star systems away. With it died the aliens' last hope of defeating humanity through treachery. Admiral Clark received damage reports from the battle. The human fleet had lost 30 ships and over 2,000 soldiers. But they had accomplished something that changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from alien commanders throughout the sector." Clark looked at the burning remains of the space station and thought about all the humans who had died to reach this moment. "Tell them we'll accept their surrender," he said finally. Right after they explained to us why they thought genocide was a good idea. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The destruction of the bioweapon facility sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, the 3 major alien species were afraid. They had tried to commit genocide and failed. Now they faced an enemy that had learned to fight without mercy. Colonel Dan Murphy stood before 5,000 human soldiers on the staging area of Mars. These were not the same humans who had once begged for scraps from alien tables. War had changed them into something harder, faster, and infinitely more dangerous. "Listen up," Dan called out, his voice carrying across the massive hangar. "The aliens thought they could murder our families and walk away. They were wrong. Today, we're going to show them what happens when you threaten human children." The soldiers before him had been enhanced with experimental technology that pushed human capabilities beyond all limits. They could run at 60 miles per hour, see through solid walls, and heal from wounds that would kill normal people. But more than that, they fought with a fury that came from deep in the human soul. Dr. Matt Anderson had been working for 3 months to understand the changes happening to humanity. The war had triggered something in human genetics that Professor Amy Chen's quantum research had only begun to reveal. "Admiral," Matt reported to Kate Rodriguez, "we're evolving at an incredible rate. The soldiers coming back from combat missions are stronger and faster than when they left. Their reflexes are superhuman, and their ability to interface with technology is growing every day." Kate nodded grimly. "Are we still human?" Matt was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. We're becoming something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before." Captain Sarah Williams had survived the destruction of the bioweapon facility, but barely. Half her team had died in the explosion, and she herself had spent 2 months in a medical facility recovering from radiation poisoning. Now she stood, ready to lead another suicide mission. "Sarah," Admiral Rodriguez said during their private meeting, "you don't have to do this. You've done enough." Sarah's eyes were cold as winter stars. "I was there when they murdered those children on Kepler 4 for to be. I saw the recordings. I'm not stopping until every alien who planned that massacre is dead." The target this time was the Korthok homeworld itself. Intelligence reports showed that the alien military leaders were gathering there for a final strategy conference. They believed their planet was too well defended for humans to attack. They had forgotten that humans no longer fought by alien rules. Admiral Tony Clark commanded a fleet that now included over 800 warships. Some were captured alien vessels that had been modified with human technology. Others were new designs that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. All of them were crewed by humans who had been transformed by war into living weapons. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "long-range sensors show the Korthak home defense fleet. 2,000 ships in standard defensive formations." Tony smiled coldly. "Standard formations. They still don't understand how we fight." The human fleet approached the Korthak system using quantum drive technology that made them invisible until the last possible moment, when they finally appeared. They were already inside the alien defensive perimeter. Lieutenant Sam Peters led his fighter squadron in the opening attack. His pilots flew ships that responded to their thoughts and emotions rather than manual controls. They moved through space like a swarm of angry hornets, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before the aliens could respond. "Remember," Sam told his pilots over the communication system, "these are the same aliens who tried to poison every human child in the galaxy. Show them what that mistake costs." The battle for the Korthak homeworld was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships fought with tactics that seemed insane but somehow worked. They rammed alien vessels when their weapons ran out, used their own ships as shields to protect others, and continued fighting even when their vessels were crippled and burning. Colonel Dan Murphy's enhanced soldiers boarded alien ships by cutting through their hulls with handheld energy weapons. Once inside, they moved through the alien vessels like ghosts of death, killing everyone they found and leaving no survivors to report what had happened. "Sir," one of Dan's lieutenants reported, "the aliens are trying to surrender." Dan looked at the young soldier with eyes that had seen too much death. "Did the children on Kepler 4 to be get a chance to surrender?" The lieutenant understood. "No, sir, they didn't." Captain Nicole Davis had infiltrated the Korthak Military Command Center weeks before the attack began. She sat in the meeting room where alien generals planned their final, desperate strategies, listening to every word and recording everything for human intelligence. "The humans fight like demons," one Korthak general said, fear obvious in his voice. "They don't care about losses. They don't follow standard tactics. How do you defeat an enemy that acts like this?" "We can't," another general replied. "We should have listened when the Federation Council warned us about pushing humans too far." Nicole smiled to herself as she recorded the conversation. Even now, the aliens didn't understand what they had awakened. They thought humans were fighting with anger and desperation. They didn't realize that humans were fighting with purpose. Dr. Ryan Foster had spent the last month developing weapons specifically designed to terrify alien troops. His new sonic weapons could shatter alien bones through their armor. His neural disruptors could drive alien soldiers insane with fear. His molecular acid could eat through any material the aliens used for protection. "The point," Ryan explained to his team, "is not just to kill them. The point is to make them so afraid that they'll never threaten humans again." The breakthrough came when Captain Sarah Williams led her team into the underground bunkers where the Korthak military leadership had taken shelter. These were the same aliens who had signed the order to massacre human civilians. Sarah had been waiting 2 years for this moment. "Surrender," the lead Korthak general begged as Sarah's team surrounded them. "We can negotiate. We can find a peaceful solution." Sarah looked at the alien who had helped plan the murder of 3,000 human children. "You had your chance for peace. You chose genocide instead." The aliens tried to fight back, but they were facing humans who had been transformed by war into something beyond their understanding. Sarah's team moved faster than the aliens could think, struck harder than their armor could withstand, and showed the same mercy the aliens had shown to human children. None of the aliens' leadership survived, but the real shock came when the humans began broadcasting what they found in the alien files. The Korthak had kept detailed records of every crime they had committed against humanity. Lists of murdered civilians, records of medical experiments, plans for concentration camps where humans would be held for scientific study. Admiral Clark read the files with growing horror and anger. They weren't just planning to kill us. They were planning to torture us first. The files revealed that the 3 alien species had been planning humanity's destruction for over 50 years. Every human discovery had been stolen. Every human innovation had been copied. And every human life had been considered expendable. General Rick Hayes received the final reports from the battle as he stood in the ruins of the Korthak Command Center. The enemy homeworld was burning. Their fleets were destroyed, and their government was dead. "Sir," his communication officer reported, We're receiving surrender offers from Korthok colonies throughout the sector. Rick thought about the human children who had died on Kepler 442b. He thought about the scientists who had been kidnapped and experimented on. He thought about 50 years of lies and abuse. Tell them we'll consider their surrender, he said finally. After they return, every human they've kidnapped, and pay compensation for every crime they've committed. But even as the Korthok fell, the remaining alien species were preparing their own desperate measures. Intelligence reports showed that the Velrani and Zephyrians were building a new weapon. Something that would make their biological weapon look like a toy. Captain Steve Johnson's agents reported that the aliens were planning to use something called a quantum virus that could destroy human ships from the inside out. The weapon was being built in secret on a space station hidden in the outer rim of the galaxy. How long do we have? Admiral Rodriguez asked. 2 weeks, Steve replied. Maybe less. Kate looked at the tactical displays showing human forces scattered across the galaxy. Bringing them together for another major assault would take time they didn't have. Then we go with what we have, she decided. Send word to all commanders. We attack in 72 hours. Dr. Matt Anderson made one final discovery as he studied the captured alien technology. The quantum virus was not just a weapon, it was designed to interact with the neural interfaces that humans had developed. If it worked, it would not just destroy human ships. It would kill every human connected to advanced technology. Admiral, Matt reported, if they deploy this weapon, it could kill half the human population. Kate Rodriguez looked at the data and made a decision that would echo through history. Then we make sure they never get the chance to deploy it. The final battle was about to begin, and this time there would be no mercy for anyone. 1 year after the destruction of the quantum virus facility, the galaxy was a very different place. The 3 alien species that had once ruled space with iron fists now lived in constant fear. Their mighty fleets were gone, their leaders were dead, and their worlds were defended by human garrisons. President Jack Sullivan stood at the window of his office on Earth, looking out at the city below. He had been elected by the unified human colonies to lead them into this new age, but the responsibility weighed heavily on his shoulders. The humans who had voted for him were not the same species that had begged for scraps from alien tables just 2 years ago. Sir, his aide announced, the alien ambassadors have arrived. Jack nodded grimly. Today, the remaining leaders of the Velrani, Korthok, and Zephyrian species would formally surrender to humanity. It should have been a moment of triumph, but Jack felt only sadness for what his people had become. Fleet Admiral Lisa Harper commanded a human military that now controlled most of the galaxy. Human ships patrolled former alien trade routes, and human soldiers kept the peace on dozens of worlds. The other species of the galaxy looked to humanity for protection, but Jack wondered if they had simply traded one form of tyranny for another. Jack, Lisa said as she entered his office, the surrender ceremony is ready to begin. Jack looked at his old friend and saw what the war had done to her. Lisa had been a gentle person before the fighting started. Now her eyes were cold as winter, and her voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded the destruction of entire worlds, Dr. Kevin. Ross had been watching humanity's transformation with growing concern. As a philosopher and former peace activist, he had tried to warn people about the cost of their victory. His writings were being read throughout human space, sparking debates about what humanity had become. We defeated our enemies, Kevin had written in his latest essay, but in doing so, we adopted their methods. We became the very thing we fought against. The question now is whether we can find our way back to being human. Ambassador Maria Santos was trying to rebuild diplomatic relations with the surviving alien governments and the dozens of minor species that had been oppressed under the old Federation. It was difficult work, because many species feared that humanity had simply replaced one form of domination with another. Ambassador, the Velrani representative said during their latest meeting, My people are grateful for your protection from Korthok raiders, but we wonder what you want in return. Maria chose her words carefully. The truth was that humanity's protection came with a price. Human colonies were being established on the best worlds. Human companies controlled the most profitable trade routes, and human technology was gradually replacing alien systems throughout the galaxy. We want peace, Maria replied, though she knew it was not the whole truth. The surrender ceremony took place in the same hall where the Galactic Federation had once voted to steal human discoveries. Now the tables were turned completely. The alien ambassadors sat in chairs designed for humans, surrounded by human guards, waiting to sign documents written in human languages. The Velrani ambassador spoke first, his voice shaking with humiliation. On behalf of the Velrani Collective, we formally surrender all military forces and submit to human authority. The Korthok representative was next. The Korthok Empire acknowledges defeat and accepts all conditions imposed by the human government. Finally, the Zephyrian delegate delivered his people's surrender. The Zephyrian Republic surrenders unconditionally and requests mercy from the human people. President Sullivan looked at the three ambassadors and felt a mixture of satisfaction and disgust. These were representatives of the species that had murdered human children, stolen human discoveries, and planned genocide. They deserved no mercy. Your surrender is accepted, Jack said formally. You will share all advanced technologies with human scientists. You will pay reparations for crimes committed against humanity. You will submit to human oversight of your military forces, and you will never again threaten human civilians. The aliens signed the documents with hands that shook from fear. They knew they had no choice. Human fleets surrounded their home worlds, and human technology had advanced far beyond anything they could match. But the victory came with a price that was becoming clearer every day. Professor Amy Chen's research had revealed that humanity's rapid evolution was continuing. The neural interfaces that had given humans their edge in battle were changing human brain structure permanently. We're not the same species we were 3 years ago, Amy reported to the Council of Human Leaders. The quantum field interactions have triggered changes that may be irreversible. We're becoming something new. Dr. Matt Anderson had been studying the psychological effects of these changes. Human emotions were becoming more intense. Human reflexes were faster than any biological system should allow, and human intelligence was increasing at a rate that worried scientists. The soldiers returning from combat missions are different, Matt explained. They're smarter, stronger, and more aggressive than baseline humans. But they're also having trouble connecting with people who haven't been through the same transformation. Fleet. Admiral Harper knew this was true. Her own officers were becoming something beyond normal human experience. They could interface directly with their ships, process information at superhuman speeds, and make tactical decisions faster than computers. But they were also losing the ability to relate to ordinary humans. Ma'am, one of her young officers reported, the patrol fleets are requesting permission to establish permanent bases in alien space. Lisa nodded, but she understood what this really meant. The human military was no longer content to defend human territory. They wanted to control everything, to make sure no threat could ever emerge again. Captain Steve Johnson's intelligence network had evolved into something that monitored every communication in the galaxy. Human agents and quantum sensors tracked the movements of every alien ship, recorded every alien conversation, and analyzed every alien decision. We know everything they're thinking before they think it, Steve reported to President Sullivan. No alien government can plan anything without us knowing about it. Jack realized that humanity had created the very thing they had once feared, a galactic surveillance state, where privacy was impossible and resistance was futile. Dr. Kevin Ross published his most controversial essay on the second anniversary of the Kepler 442b massacre. We saved our children, he wrote, but we may have damned our souls. We became so focused on defeating our enemies that we forgot to preserve what made us human in the first place. The essay sparked riots on some human worlds, where veterans of the war demanded that Ross be arrested for treason. But it also started conversations about whether humanity's victory had been worth the price they paid for it. The final revelation came when Ambassador Maria Santos received a report from one of her diplomatic teams. A group of minor alien species had secretly met to discuss forming a resistance movement against human rule. They're calling it the Liberation Front, Maria reported to President Sullivan. They say we've become the oppressors now. Jack read the intelligence report with a heavy heart. The aliens were planning to use the same tactics humans had used against the Federation: guerrilla warfare, intelligence networks, and asymmetric attacks against a superior enemy. We've come full circle, Jack realized. We're the Federation now. The War Crimes Tribunal convened 6 months later to judge the aliens responsible for the Kepler-44 to be massacred and other atrocities. The proceedings were broadcast throughout the galaxy, showing alien leaders confessing to their crimes and begging for mercy. But many humans who watched the trials felt uncomfortable with what they saw. The alien defendants looked broken and defeated, and their confessions seemed forced. Some observers wondered if humanity had become the very thing they had fought to destroy. General Rick Hayes attended every day of the trials, sitting in the front row and staring at the aliens who had ordered the murder of human children. When the verdicts were announced, all the defendants were sentenced to death by quantum disintegration. Justice, Rick said as he watched the sentences carried out. But even he wondered if what they had done was truly justice or simply revenge. President Sullivan's final speech to the Galactic Assembly was broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. He stood before representatives of hundreds of species, all of whom now lived under human protection and human rule. 3 years ago, Jack said, humanity was the victim of unprovoked aggression and attempted genocide. We responded with force, because we had no other choice. We fought to protect our children and preserve our civilization. He paused, looking out at the alien faces, staring back at him with mixtures of fear and resentment. Today, we offer a choice to all species in this galaxy: accept human leadership and live in peace, or face the consequences of resistance. We will not allow another Kepler-44 to happen. We will not permit any species to threaten human civilians ever again. The message was clear. Humanity was now the dominant power in the galaxy, and they intended to keep it that way. But as President Sullivan walked back to his office after the speech, he passed a playground where human children were playing. These children had been born after the war began. They had never known a time when humans were weak or afraid. One little girl looked up at him with eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. Her neural interfaces were more advanced than any previous generation, and her potential was unlimited. But Jack wondered what kind of person she would become in a galaxy where humanity ruled through fear. "Mr. President," the girl said, in a voice that carried strange harmonics, "when I grow up, will there be any worlds left to conquer?" Jack Sullivan looked into those glowing eyes and realized that humanity had won the war, but lost something essential in the process. They had pushed their enemies too far, and in return had been pushed beyond the boundaries of their own humanity. The galaxy was safer now, but it would never be the same, and neither would humanity. The children playing in that garden would inherit a universe where their species was feared throughout the stars. They would grow up as conquerors rather than explorers, rulers rather than neighbors. Jack walked away from the playground, wondering if the price of survival had been too high. Behind him, the children continued to play their games of conquest and domination, preparing for a future that their parents had made possible but could no longer recognize. Humanity had won the war, but the victory had changed them into something the galaxy had never seen before. The question that remained was whether they could ever change back.